It's the story of King Puranjana. It's one of my favorite pastimes in the Bhagavatam. So normally I really hesitate, like I super hesitate from giving Bhagavatam classes because, I feel that you have to walk the talk. Or, yeah, anyway, I feel that whenever I give a class for the next 3 or 4 weeks, I just get super purified. So that's why I just really hesitate from giving Bhagavatam class. But it was actually Madan Gopal's turn to give class today, but he's cooking, so he couldn't. And so then he asked me if I wanted to fill in. So I said, let me look at the verse. So this verse, I can like 200% relate to it because it's a verse on Asuri Bhava. So I was like, yeah, I can speak on this easily, even without much knowledge of Shastra. So it's a really nice verse relating to the tendencies of the conditioned soul. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Asurinama Paschadvas Dayayati Puranjanaha Gramakam Nama Vishayam Durmadena Samanvitaha Asurinama Paschadvas Dayayati Puranjanaha Gramakam Nama Vishayam Durmadena Samanvitaha Asurinama Paschadvas Dayayati Puranjanaha Gramakam Nama Vishayam Durmadena Samanvitaha. Asuri, of the name Asuri. Nama, called. Paschat, on the western side. Dwaha, gate. Taya, by which. Yati, used to go. Puranjanaha, King Puranjana. Gramakam, of the name Gramaka. Nama, called. Vishayam, the city of sense enjoyment. Durmadena, by Durmada. Samanvitaha, accompany. Translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada. On the western side was a gate named Asuri. Through that gate, King Puranjana used to go to the city of Brahmaka, accompanied by his friend Durmada. The gate on the western side of the city was known as Asuri because it was especially meant for the Asuras. The word Asura refers to those who are interested in sense gratification, specifically in sex life, to which they are overly attracted. Thus, Puranjana, the living entity, enjoys himself to his greatest satisfaction by means of the genitals. Consequently, he used to go to the place known as Gramaka. Material sense gratification is also called Gramya, and the place where sex life is indulged in to a great extent is called Gramaka. When going to Gramaka, Puranjana used to be accompanied by his friend Durmada. The word Vishaya refers to the four bodily necessities of life: eating, sleeping, mating, and defending. The word Durmadena may be analyzed in this way. Dur means dushta or sinful, and mada means madness. Every living entity who is in contact with material nature is called mada or mad. It is said, Pishachi paile yena mati channa hoy, maya grasta jivera hoy se bhava uday. Prema Vivarta. When a person is haunted, he practically becomes insane. He becomes practically insane. When one is in an insane condition, he speaks all kinds of nonsense. Thus, to become engaged in sense gratification, one has to accept a friend who is Durmada or badly affected by the material disease. The words Asuri Nama Paschad Dwaha are significant in another sense. The sunrise is first visible from the eastern side, the Bay of Bengal, and gradually it progresses towards the west. It is practically experienced that people in the west are more addicted to sense gratification. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu himself has certified, Paschimera Loka Sabha Mudha Anacha, CC Adi 10.89. The more one goes to the western side, the more he will find people disinterested in spiritual life. He will find them behaving against the Vedic standards. Because of this, people living in the West are more addicted to sense gratification. In this Bhagavatam, it is confirmed Asuri Nama Paschadwaha. In other words, the population on the western side is interested in an Asuric civilization. That is a materialistic way of life. Lord Chaitanya consequently wanted this Krishna consciousness movement to be preached on the western side of the world so that people addicted to sense gratification might be benefited by his teaching. Translation again. On the western side was a gate named Asuri. Through that gate, King Puranjana used to go to the city of Gramaka, accompanied by his friend Durmada. Om Jnana-timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurum Maritam Yena Tasmai Shri Guru Varma Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripasindubhyo Eva Cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhaktavrind. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So in this section, just a brief overview of what's happening in the past few verses is that it's being described the different gates in the body. So it's explained that there are 9 gates, and each gate opens to a city of sense enjoyment. So the gates have been explained in terms of directions. So there are 5 gates that are facing the east, that are on the eastern side. Then there are 2 gates facing north and south, and then there are 2 gates that are subterranean. So the 5 gates that are facing the east are, the ones that we have on towards the front. North and south are our ears, and then the subterranean ones are the genitals, which is the western gates. So which is where we are now. We are on text 52, and as explained that each city, each gate opens to a city of sense enjoyment, opens to a certain city, and the living entity is trying to enjoy itself through these different gates, and every gate that it goes to, it takes a friend along. It doesn't, the living entity doesn't go alone. It takes a friend. So with this context, now here we are on this context 52. So this text is talking about the Western Gate, which is the subterranean gate. It's referring specifically to the genitals. So it talks about Asura. So this gate itself is named Asuri. It's the Asuri Bhav. The first, as soon as I read this translation, what came to my mind was Hiranyakashipu. Hiranyakashipu is the personification of Asuri Bhav. He's the personification of Rajagun, the mode of passion. So Asuri Bhav so we know that Hiranyakashipu, he signifies soft bed, gold and wine and women. So that is what Asuri Bhav is. It's the mode of passion. So all of us, how it's explained that in Satya Yuga, let me see if I remember this rightly, that in Satya Yuga, the demons or the asuras, they were on a different planet. In Treta Yuga, they were on the same planet. In Dwapar Yuga, they were in the same country. And in Kali Yuga, they're in the same heart. I hope I got that right. So we have both demoniac and divine propensities. Now, most of as we know that love for Krishna is innate in everyone's heart. So which means, that we have all the divine qualities and they are innate within our hearts. But because of the influence of Maya, all these tendencies, all our godly tendencies are covered. And what is prominent right now in contact with Maya, we have acquired asuric tendencies. So what does this Asuri Bhava mean? What is it that an Asura likes to do? So we know this from chapter 16 of the Bhagavad Gita, divine and demoniac. So an Asura, in essence, means that someone who is rebelling against Krishna wants to mimic Krishna. So which means that they want to enjoy sense gratification to the max. They're completely opposed to the idea of serving Krishna. It's about enjoying our gross senses through the sense objects, and it's enjoying the subtle senses, through endeavors for society, friendship, love, honor, position, name, fame, adoration. So that is Asuri Bhav, that I want to be the enjoyer and I want to be the controller. And actually thinking that I am the enjoyer and I am the controller, and I just want to expand on this. And this is very beautifully explained in 327. Prakriti kriyamanani gunai karmani sarvashah ahankara vimudhatma kartaham iti manyate. So the living entity thinks that I am the doer and I'm doing everything. Everything is under my control. And also Prabhupada explains in 715 the 4 types of people who never surrender to Krishna. So we know they are the Naradhama, the Mudha, the Asuri Bhava, and the Maya Parita Jnana. So these people, they will never surrender to Krishna. And so their main desire in life, the main purpose of the Asuri Bhava is to mimic Krishna. And that's explained we read in the first text of chapter 15, where Krishna explains that there is an upside down banyan tree. So what does this upside down banyan tree mean? It means that the material world is a reflection of the spiritual world. So it means that we are doing that the living entity is trying to mimic the activities of Krishna. So what is topmost in the spiritual world is the most abominable in the material world. But the living entity, under the influence of the illusory energy, thinks that if Krishna can enjoy like this in this topmost way, which is through the mellow of conjugal love, then the living entity thinks that that is the topmost pleasure here as well. And the reason why the living entity thinks like that is because the living entity thinks that Krishna is ordinary and that the spiritual world is ordinary, that we have this, it's called as Pashandi Buddhi, that we see the deity as an ordinary, we just see the deity as ordinary. We see the devotees as ordinary. We see the spiritual master as ordinary. We think Charnamrita is ordinary. So we think because Krishna is ordinary, and if Krishna can enjoy this pleasure, then I can enjoy this pleasure too. And that this is the topmost pleasure. And we see that Prabhupada says that often, that it's this sex desire which is driving, driving the material world in different shapes and forms. It's everyone is chasing the sex pleasure. And that is why Puranjana is now heading to the western gate. Because he knows that of all the other gates, it is this gate that will bring him maximum enjoyment. So we can see that in our own life as well. We all are, at least speaking for myself, that I like to be in a situation where I'm the most comfortable, where I can get maximum satisfaction. So that is what Puranjana is trying to do. So Puranjana is sitting inside this body. So you can think about it that this body is like a bag. Prabhupada often explains that this body is like a bag of flesh. So basically, so this body is like a bag. You can, I don't know if you guys watched these cartoon movies growing up, but I saw this. There was this animated version of Ali Baba and the 40 Thieves. Did you guys have that story? Ali Baba and the 40 Thieves. Okay. So in the animated version, what was there was that so Ali Baba and all his his village folk. No, the 40 thieves. They hid themselves in these barrels. This is a long time back. I just vaguely remember, but they hid themselves in these liquor barrels, and these barrels were empty. And they made these small eye holes in these barrels so they could see from the barrels, when the city was going to empty out so that they could attack. So all these thieves, they are sitting inside these barrels with these holes through which they can see. So similarly, we are sitting inside this bag which has 9 holes, and Puranjana, the living entity, is sitting inside this bag, and it is using each one of this hole to gain as much pleasure as possible. But Puranjana knows that the maximum pleasure is going to come from the hole that's on the western side, because Puranjana wants to imitate Krishna. And when the living entity wants to imitate Krishna, we read this text from this section of lust in chapter 3. It's 639, where Prabhupada translates very beautifully that thus the wise living entity's pure consciousness becomes covered by his eternal enemy in the form of lust, which is never satisfied and which burns like fire. So now the living entity is captivated by this desire to satisfy his senses, and he knows, that this is where he's going to get it. So Puranjana is headed towards this western gate, and being maddened by this desire, you know, Puranjana's intelligence is covered. His intelligence becomes polluted. So now Puranjana wants to go to the city, which is called as Gramaka. So we see in this translation, through that gate, King Puranjana used to go to the city of Gramaka. So the Jiva comes to Gramaka, and this is where he wants to live, because he knows this is where he's going to get the most satisfaction. And so he starts to organize everything. Like, he starts to organize and plan, how can I get maximum satisfaction here? And we see that in the material world, everyone is busy planning. Everyone is so busy. There is no time. No one has any time. Everyone is busy planning. And Prahlad Maharaj says in the 7th canto that as soon as one starts to make plans for material happiness, straight away our distress begins. And this is what even Rishabdev is saying to his sons. Nunam is that famous Nunam Pramaka verse that the living entity is mad for planning for sense gratification. And actually, the living entity doesn't realize that it's because of all this planning for sense gratification he's obtained a material body. And so this is not something wise for the living entity to do, but still it continues to do this. So Puranjana is planning for its illusory satisfaction in Gramaka. So we can reflect that where is my Gramaka? That where do I go to satisfy my senses? How do I satisfy my senses? I think we all have our individual Gramakas. Maybe for me, it's a stash of prasad. This is our legitimate Gramaka. or maybe it's scrolling on social media, sitting in our special corner in the ashram, or maybe just something on the computer. So, we can reflect on this, that how do we satisfy our senses? Yeah. Where am I seeking satisfaction from? That when I go somewhere, am I going there with the intention of serving Krishna? Is Krishna's service prominent, or is my sense satisfaction the motivation? So, yeah. Am I going to Gramaka? This is I really this yeah this is something that really struck me in this verse, that where is my Gramaka? And I realized that my Gramaka is at 9 p.m. when I should be going to bed, but instead of that, scrolling on social media. That's my Gramaka. My Guru Maharaj, His Holiness Devamrita Swami, he gave this class 2 years back on nighttime procrastination. That's when the mind wants to get back. You feel the mind tells you this, that, okay, all day you've done so much, you've been serving others, but now is your time. And so let's go on social media and scroll. So that's my Gramaka. And then also my Gramaka is when my husband cooks at the ashram, that's my Gramaka. Okay, so now the other, so another thing that really struck me in this verse was that, is that when we, is like Krishna, we see that Krishna is never alone in the spiritual world. He is always with someone. So similarly, when we want to enjoy, we are always seeking someone to take along, because we want someone's, it's almost, of course in Krishna's case it's different, but it's almost in our case, our own energy is not sufficient to enjoy, so we need someone else. Okay, hey, come along, let's take someone along, and then both these persons will be enthusiastic, and will encourage each other in this enjoyment. It's like your enjoyment increases when you take someone along. So that's why Puranjana, when he's going to any of these gates, he is taking someone along with him. So now when he wants to go to the Western Gate, so I was just thinking of how this applies in our life, that yeah, I mean, I can think of this from my Karmi days. I mean, even now. So if I want to talk about something, like for example, let's say if I want to talk about Shastra, I go to Dharma. If I want to talk about Prasad, I go to Madan Gopal. If I want to talk about service, I go to someone else. So depending on what is the nature of what we want to talk about, or the nature of what we want to engage in, we seek such that association. So Puranjana now wants to go to the Western Gate. So naturally, the Puranjana is not going to go to his sadhu friends, because they are not going to encourage him to go there. So Puranjana is going to Durmada. So he's probably had a look in his friend circle, who is Durmada. So Durmada is someone who is mad and sinful. And Durmada is mad for material enjoyment. So he's probably identified Durmada in his friend circle, and he is taking Durmada with him to go to the Western Gate. So I was thinking that for myself, just reflecting that who is my Durmada? That, in my life, who is encouraging me, and then, encouraging me, or where do I get encouragement from to, to not serve Krishna fully, or to slack off? Because Durmada is not just a person, but Durmada is actually also our mind, also our intelligence. And I thought a really good example of this is Ajamil. So we see that when Ajamil saw that couple, when he was as a young Brahmana, when he was walking on the road and he saw that couple, it's not that he it's not that he was walking on that day there with that intention of falling down. That was not his intention. But he was just walking on the road and he saw this couple. But then it's what he did next that led to his fall down. So naturally, by looking at this couple, there was an imprint in his mind, and he couldn't get rid of that impression. So he kept on meditating on it. And then the next step that he did was that he employed that lady, that prostitute, as a maidservant in his own house. And that continued for some time. And then after that, he actually started having sexual affairs with the maidservant. So we say that Ajamil actually had the independence to decide what he wanted to do. He felt he had that desire. He when when that stimulus came to him, that desire came up in him. But it was how he went about in satisfying that desire which changed the course of his future. So instead of, at that stage, he had the choice that now either I can go this way or I can go that way. Either I can take Sadhu Sangha or I can take Durmada Sangha. And he actually chose to take Durmada Sangha, which was the association of his mind. And that is what led to his downfall. So we can tell that how the living entity is acting, whether the Puranjana is acting in Asuri Bhav or in Suri Bhav, based on what he's doing, based on Puranjana's activity. What is the motivation? What is the action? And what is the association? So what is the association that is influencing the motivation and the action of the living entity? If we see these, then we know that whether the person is acting in Asuri Bhav or the person is acting in Suri Bhav. So we can see that in our own lives, that my action, that my motivation, my action is influenced by what association? Is it influenced by Durmada association or by good association? So I was reading this book by Keshava Swami, and he gives this, in one activity, he talks about how you can read in a deeper way. So he talks about 4 levels of hearing. So which is Shravanam, Mananam, Nididhyasanam, and Vandanam. So Nididhyasanam aspect is the 3rd level, which talks about that once you have heard and once you've contemplated, then you think about how you can apply this in your own life. So I thought that how can we now apply this, what we are hearing here, Nididhyasanam. So we're all sitting here, we are all practicing Krishna consciousness. And basically Krishna consciousness is the journey of going from the western gate to the northern gate, which is going from the western gate, which is the Asuri Bhav, to the Suri Bhav. So the northern gate is the gate of hearing. So as we make this journey in Krishna consciousness, the first step and the most important step is to actually kick out Durmada, is to give up bad association. We see in Nectar of Instruction, in both in text 2 and text 3. So text 2 is Pratyahara. Now, what's the first one? Pratyahara. Sorry, start again. Yes, yeah. Pratyahara, Prayasascha, Atyahara. Yes. Jana Sangascha Lolyam Cha. So in text 2 is Jana Sangas, and in text 3 is Asat Sanga. So in both texts, although in text 3 is giving all the positive things that we are meant to do that will bring about 100% success in pure devotional service. In text 3 also, it says Asat Sanga Tyag, that we have to give up bad association or asadhu association. And the same thing is being said in text 2 as well. Jana Sangascha, that giving up the association of worldly minded persons who are not interested in Krishna consciousness. So that is the first thing to do, is to actually, and before you can do that, we need to identify what is bad association. So for wherever we are at in our journey in Krishna consciousness, is we need to have association that is going to inspire us to go forward from there. So, we can make a blanket statement saying that, okay, get rid of bad association. But what it actually means is, because we have such limited time and energy that we can expose ourselves to, and because we know that we're so impressionable, so that's why it's very important to choose inspiring association. So when you choose inspiring association, then you automatically alienate association that is not inspiring us to move forward in Krishna consciousness. When you choose association that inspires you to sacrifice more, that inspires you to serve selflessly, that inspires you to come out of your comfort zone, that inspires you to do more than just the bare minimum for Krishna, that is inspiring association. And that is association that we want to see. So association that is, association that inspires us to just survive in Krishna consciousness or just coast in Krishna consciousness, that is good. It's better than bad association. But is that where we want to be? We don't want to coast in bhakti. We want to be progressive. And so that's why we want to seek association that is progressive, that is inspiring us to move forward. Because you can only, because the living entity, we only have so much ability. How many friends can you have? How many talks can you hear? How much, how much can you expose yourself to? We have limited ability, unfortunately. So whatever capacity we have, we should try to make the max of that capacity by going for the best. So that's how I see Durmada, that you get a different friend. And the friend that you get here is, I think is in text, one of the previous texts, which is Shrutadhar. Yeah, it's in text 50. The southern gate of the city was known as Pitruhu, and through that gate, King Puranjana used to visit the city named Dakshin Panchal, accompanied by his friend Shrutadhar. That's text 50. And text 51. On the northern side was the gate named Devahu. Through that gate, King Puranjana used to go with his friend Shrutadhar to the place known as Uttara Panchal. So Shrutadhar is the friend that is taking Puranjana towards hearing from scriptures. But this friend Shrutadhar, that's where we need discrimination. Because Shrutadhar, listening to Vedic scriptures, can take you both ways. So if Shrutadhar takes you to the southern gate, that's the path of fruitive activity through Vedic scriptures. And if Shrutadhar takes you to the northern gate, that's actually transcendence through Vedic scriptures. So we're so fortunate that Prabhupada is presenting to us the gold standard of pure devotional service. So that's how we want to use Shrutadhar. Shrutadhar, means hearing. Is that we want to use this friend to take us to hear about the gold standard. And that's what's inspiring us to move ahead, as I was saying, to do beyond the bare minimum in my capacity, not just coast, but do a bit more. So sound vibration, hearing transcendental sound vibration coming from sadhu. As we hear that, and this, this can't be emphasized enough. We know that of all the 9 angas of bhakti, Shravanam is the most important one. And that's why Krishna in chapter 7, which is where the treasure of the Bhagavad Gita begins, right in chapter 7, text 1, Krishna is so eager to tell Arjuna. That's why Krishna is saying to Arjuna, that Shrinu, that hear from me. And so in the next 5 chapters, from chapter 7 to 12, Krishna is going to tell Arjuna about Samagram. Asamshayam Samagram means complete knowledge of the absolute truth, which is understanding Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, as Akhila Rasamrita Murti, that he is the reservoir of all pleasure, and how we as living entities can actually connect with him in pure devotional service beyond any doubt. So Krishna is now going to give this information to Arjuna, and Krishna is so excited to say this. That's why Krishna is telling to Arjuna, Tat Shrinu. And by hearing from Krishna, by hearing from authority, we get the opportunity to become perfectly Krishna conscious. So Shravanam is such an important process, and it's only when we properly use this. So if you think that you're sitting in a bag with these 9 holes, only when you use these 2 holes properly will all your other holes work properly in proper alignment in Krishna consciousness. If we are not hearing properly, which means if we are not hearing from inspiring association, that is constantly like shaking us out a bit, okay, come on, you can do a little bit more, then our other gates will slack off. So only when ears and tongue are properly used, then all other gates can be properly engaged. And this is what Krishna is assuring Arjuna, when Arjuna tells in chapter 6 to Krishna that what you're saying is all good, about controlling the mind, but actually the mind is more turbulent than the wind. And so then Krishna explains that it is possible by suitable practice and detachment. And that's what Prabhupada is explaining in the purport, that what is that suitable practice? That suitable practice is Shravana. It's because by hearing about Krishna, the mind becomes detached from everything that takes us away from Krishna. And by hearing about Krishna, we get something called as Parishanubhav, is that we get that higher taste. And by tasting prasad and by chanting Hare Krishna. So these three things, they work in, what is it? Tandem. Yeah. So it's a very, very powerful process. And then, of course, we have those famous set of verses from in the Srimad Bhagavatam, which explains how the process of hearing actually works. So the process of hearing, it has different stages. So in the initial stages, when we engage in Shravanam, as we know from the first text of Shikshastakam, that it's Cheto Darpana Marjanam, and also in Srimvatam Swakatha Krishna, Punya Shravana Kirtana, Hridyantasto hi Bhadrani. So the first step is cleansing. And so what happens is that as we listen more and more, we become more and more cleansed. We become more and more purified. The more and more purified we become more and more fixed in devotional service. The more and more fixed we become in devotional service, then the effects of nature's modes of passion and ignorance, they start to go away. And as these effects disappear more and more, and once these impurities are completely wiped away, then we become fully fixed. And once we become fixed, like at that stage when we're in the mode of, when we are not affected by these, then when we hear, then when the transcendental sound vibration enters the ear, it actually awakens prema in the heart. Like right now, when we are hearing, it's not awakening prema in our heart. It's because right now what is happening is that we are getting purified. And once we are purified, then as soon as the transcendental sound vibration enters or we come in contact, prema awakens in the heart. So that is the potency of the sound vibration. Often we are thinking, well, at least I'm thinking, that I'm hearing all this, but what's actually happening? But it's working. It's definitely working. And this is the reason why we have to hear every day. It's nityam. Maya is often telling us, okay, come on, you've read these books, you're reading them every day, you're hearing lectures. It's okay, what if you don't read one day? What's the big difference? You know the philosophy. But Maya is so strong, illusion is so strong that every Maya is acting on us 24/7. We're constantly in illusion. We're in illusion about the nature of the world, about who we are, about Krishna. We're just in complete forgetfulness. So if we hear from our mind, then all that we're doing is we're just hearing about different forms of sense enjoyment. And Maya tells us that, okay, you're executing devotional service. So what else do you want? You're practicing sadhana bhakti, but yeah, and you're doing pretty good. But actually, even when there is that sincere desire to serve Krishna, which is so precious and which is so rare, like if you have that sincere desire to serve Krishna, you have to guard it like anything because it is so rare. It is so rare. And we are in such, the illusion is so thick that it can get covered so easily because that one sincere desire to serve Krishna is crowded by all these various desires for sense enjoyment, that we don't actually even understand the extent and nature of our own contamination. Like we have actually no idea of the extent of illusion that we are in. At least speaking for myself, is that we have absolutely no idea that how much illusion I'm in. And it's the job of Maya to give you this, we know that Maya has two potencies, right? It throws you and then it covers you. So Maya throws you an illusion and it covers your ability to understand what type of illusion you are in. So we may think that actually I'm not an illusion, but actually this is what Maya is broadcasting to you, that you are not an illusion. And then being under this illusion, we become complacent, lethargic, and we slack off. And that's why we see in that second canto where Lord Brahma, after Lord Brahma is making this prayer to Krishna after the Chatushloki Bhagavatam, after engaging in this severe, you know, meditation for 1,000 celestial years, when Krishna appears and after speaking the Chatushloki Bhagavatam, Lord Brahma is praying to Krishna that please bless me, and please give me knowledge so that I may not be overcome by pride. And the acharyas explain that what does this pride actually mean? Because we may think that we are not proud, but actually pride manifests as lethargy and complacence and slacking off. Because if we are slacking off, we are complacent, if we are doing the bare minimum, then if you reflect and you realize that the reason why we behave in that way is because we think that what I'm doing is good. It's good enough. It's actually pride. When we become lethargic and complacent, I'm good. So it's actually pride that is creeping in, and we have to be so vigilant. We have to be so vigilant. That's why we have to hear every day. So we have this process of Krishna consciousness, which is about moving from the western gate to the northern gate, and our progress in it. The rate at which we move ahead depends wholly and solely on our level of submission in hearing, chanting, and selfless service to the Guru and Vaishnavas. And what is our level of submission? That, okay, am I mechanically doing my service, or how much is my heart in it? We are not at that stage of spontaneous devotional service. That's like a millennium away, but but we have to be conscious of the goal, that why am I actually doing this? That I need this, that I need to hear the Bhagavatam. Is because if I don't hear it, what is my position? I'm just completely drowning in Maya. I need to hear this Bhagavatam. And I actually need to pray for the mercy of all these great personalities whose pastimes I'm reading about. I need to pray for the mercy of my Guru Maharaj. And I need to beg for the mercy of the Guru Parampara, that please let me not drown in so much forgetfulness, that please allow these words to enter my heart and somehow make some impact, because I'm just drowning. So this submissive service to the limbs of bhakti, beginning with Shravana, is the only way. Submissive service, Trinadapi Sunichana. That really, where am I? Like Asuri Bhav, I'm sitting on the western gate. And it seems like so simple, right? That, you just open the Bhagavatam and I'm going to read it. But actually, it's the consciousness with which we read. Really, how submissive are we when we're reading? That makes all the difference. It makes all the difference. And that is that is this wonderful process that Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has come to give us, and Srila Prabhupada is giving us, and which is coming down to us through the Guru Parampara, is that when we give this to others, we get the mercy of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And when we get that mercy, then all this that we are reading, it dislodges these blocks in the heart. It shakes them. These words, they have that potency to actually go inside and shake our foundations of material existence. But that shaking happens through mercy, which descends when we actually please the acharyas, and when we please Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu by sharing this knowledge with others. And that's what Prabhupada is stating in this purport, that Lord Chaitanya consequently wanted this Krishna consciousness movement to be preached on the western side of the world, so that people addicted to sense gratification might be benefited by his teachings. So our acharyas, they want us to chant Hare Krishna and move up from the western gate to the northern gate, and they want us to help others do the same. And it's possible by humility, that actually I personally have no qualification, because I'm sitting here, on the western gate. So how am I able to share anything with anyone? What potency do I have? But if it comes, if the will of my spiritual master is there, then I can do so. Okay, that's what I had to say. So a few thoughts. Would anyone like to add something? Some reflections? Anything to share? Hare Krishna.
So much for clear class. And question for someone who's like pretty much early development and passion. Their life is like very up and down. And there are times where you have very large visions of what to do, things to do, and find very balanced and regulated. At that point, there needs to be a lot of compassion and like self-care and actually look off some standards because personally I've tried to keep rigid during down only brings it further down, like self-torture basically. of like trying to do something that you can't. So, I mean, even as I'm saying this, I realize that's the fault of the motivation from the outset. What do we do to somehow mitigate these massive peaks of loss?
This is where my social media scrolling will help me. It was just, I think it was just maybe 3, 4 days back. I saw this post by Keshava Swami, which I really liked. I think you must have seen it too. He was saying that, oh gosh, maintain a consistency, maintain, it was something about intensity, have an intensity which you can maintain with a consistency so that it will increase your purity. So the point is that you need to identify what is the intensity that you can work with consistently so that it's not that you're going through phases of passion and ignorance. So what is it that you can do but you can do consistently? So I'll give you an example of my favorite example is Dayamaya. I think she's really just an outstanding example of consistency. Like every day she will go and she does a fixed amount. It's not that she goes and she does like 8 hours on the street. But she does what she does, and she does that knowing very well what is the capacity of her body and mind, and knowing that how much refuel she needs, how much time she needs to refuel herself. So we need to have a very realistic um, gauge of our own capacity, which we get by consultation with seniors. So we can understand that actually this is what I can do. And then we're always striving to go up from that. But it's not that this is what I can do it's not that it's bare minimum, like Vaisheshekar Prabhu, he always gives that example. There is the stress zone, comfort zone, and there's the stretch zone. So you want to make sure that you're hitting your stretch zone regularly, because otherwise you will not have the motivation to chant Hare Krishna with attention or to beg for that mercy that Krishna, please help me to do this. If we never stretch ourselves, then we will have this, that okay, I got this. I got this, and I don't, it fits in my schedule and it works according to my capacity, and I don't really need to, pray to Krishna for more. Like for example, Sankarshan Ram Prabhu is here. Um, I was recently, they hosted Mother Urmila. I think they also hosted some other sadhus. So they had a home program. So I had gone, and I was just telling Kathamrita that I just find it absolutely amazing how you've done this. That you have a young child, and it's hard. It's quite hard being a new single mom, but going out of your comfort zone to host, to host a guest, and that also for quite some time. Like it's going out of your comfort zone. It's actually like if we never take anxiety for Krishna, then we will never experience the sweetness of Yagya. That's the point. Yeah. But also, you don't want to go through this. And the background is that actually to increase our capacity, we have to be very prayerful. Yeah. There has to be a lot of prayer there that actually, Krishna, I'm not able to do this. Yeah, and I really need a lot of help. and support. This is actually beyond my capacity. Whatever we do is beyond our capacity. Really, as living entities, we're so tiny. We just hardly have any capacity at all. Everything, in this section, we are seeing that how the living entity is going to different gates, but actually all the gates first appeared when Krishna desired for them to appear. When Krishna felt thirsty, that's when, the tongue, the palate appeared. When Krishna wanted to see, that's when the eyes appeared. So all our senses actually are coming from Krishna. Krishna is Rishikesh. Mahavishnu, it's explained that in the process of creation, that Mahatattva or Mahavishnu, he represents sense energy and he represents mental force. So when we are going through our peaks and when we are going through our troughs, if we are always praying to Krishna, that Krishna, please give me the energy to do this, yeah, then it will come. And he will not yeah. And also how to do things in a balanced way. Because it's you have that balanced way of doing things, but it doesn't mean that your spirit has to go down. Right now, what happens is that body goes down, spirit goes down, But yeah, it comes with it comes as you go ahead. Okay. Hare Krishna. Mm. You answered it. Yeah, yeah. That's what I would say. I think that is the um, yeah. That someone else had also asked this question. So our New Zealand yatra is quite small. So um, that's one thing. But on the other hand, there's also, the mind is also so expert. The mind can actually tell us that, like, even within the brahmacharya ashram or even within, a group of like-minded devotees, the mind can always tell us that, oh, I'm a bit different, that this person is not exactly like-minded, or this person interests are a little bit different. Do you find that happens? Do you find that happens? That even, that you can be in the association of 100 brahmacharis, but you may still feel like, oh, that may be, that's, what do you think? Yeah, yeah. And that's why we see that, yeah, devotees change communities. Of course, we want to find a good living situation where we are peaceful and we can be inspired to progress. But I just think of of how Guru Maharaj answers this question. He says that is that when we are associating with that, he talks about the art of associating with devotees. Is then we have to be very prayerful. Yeah, we have to be very prayerful, pray to Krishna, to the super soul, that please let me be inspired by this association. That let's not take the association of devotees casually. That if we pray to Krishna, that actually let me see how that please let me see the glories of this devotee. This will sound a bit weird, but um, just after Kirtan, I went down to the toilet. It was so spick and span. And I was just thinking that, at 7:30 a.m. in the morning, some devotee has sacrificed. I don't know who cleans the toilets here. Who is it? Wow. So I was just thinking, that this devotee here, um, is so clean for like it's just been cleaned, and it's like this person has probably, like sacrificed their time, has sacrificed their time for chanting and reading, and actually come and cleaned the bathroom so that the devotees who come for the morning program can have a nice, clean facility to use. I mean, that was super inspiring for me, and I was just thinking, that I'm just like, okay, till morning 10 a.m. my phone is on airplane. I'm just fully absorbed in like, I don't want to be disturbed in this time. But you see what I'm trying to say? That yeah, that every devotee is actually just look at Hannah. She's sitting here. Recently, when Guru Maharaj was here, we went for darshan, and he was asking her that how do you make Lakshmi? And she was saying that she busks, and she was saying that she actually plays kirtan, like she plays Namo Vishnu Padaya, and people give her Lakshmi. And so when she comes to do her service to the loft, it's like there's a 1 hour gap, and then she goes out in that much time to distribute books. She's so much inspiring her son to take to Krishna consciousness. Now, like, honestly, we are not, I don't think Hannah and I are like minded. I mean, I don't know much about her, but, it's like my interests are very different, I think, from Hannah's. I'm not at all musical, but like her, the service attitude, the desire to serve Krishna is so strong there, and it's so inspiring. That you come there, you do your whole day, you do your service, and then you run out, you busk a bit, you distribute books, then you come back. You're taking the risk of letting your son become a brahmachari. There's yeah, so that's yeah. If we pray to Krishna, then we can be inspired by the glories of devotees who are around us. I don't know if you saw the roster yesterday, but I put this point by what's his name? Chaitanya Sri Prabhu. And basically what he was saying was that if you appreciate someone's external achievements, then you increase their extrinsic self-worth. But if you appreciate their commitment, then you increase their intrinsic self-worth. So if you appreciate what someone has done, then it kind of encourages this feeling, okay, that I will get appreciated if I do this thing. But if I fail to do this thing, then I won't get appreciated. But actually, if you appreciate someone's commitment, then no matter whether the external result is there or not, the devotee will be inspired to keep, to act at that level. So, because finally, what we do externally, the service that we do, it all comes from inspiration. And we can be inspired by others' commitment and others' level of sacrifice in what they are doing. Like Sankarshan Ram Prabhu, he's here early in the morning. He has a young child at home. He's here. This Prabhu, he was leading Kirtan so nicely. It was such a nice Guru Puja Kirtan. Everyone else was being humble. But you started leading was such a nice Kirtan. And Jagatpati, you're here. You live in Otahu. But yeah, like everyone is sacrificing. So we just have to see that and pray to Krishna. We have to pray to Krishna to be able to see that. And if we get like-minded association, then we have to be so grateful for it. Yeah, if we are grateful for it, then Krishna will send more. Would someone like to add something? I've said so much. Any reflections on this? Yes, Hannah. Yes. Yeah. And the fact that you said that you do it is because you have the sincere desire to serve Krishna and you're sticking to it, right? Because like Ajamil, all of us, the living entities, that is the Shakti. So we have the free will to decide what we want to do. So the fact that you're doing it, even though you don't want to do it, is you have made that decision to do it. You have chosen to exercise your free will in that way, in doing that service, even though you may not be experiencing spontaneous ecstasy in doing it. And that is your show of love to Krishna for the process of devotional service, right? because you totally have full freedom to act on that tendency to not do it, because you're definitely feeling it, right? You're definitely feeling like not coming to Mangalarti every day, right? Maybe 6 days in a week you feel like coming, and maybe on the seventh day you don't feel like coming, but you still come because you want, yeah, it's because you're choosing to exercise your free will in the right way. That choice is there. And that is sadhana bhakti, that we are exercising that choice of free will to serve Krishna, even though we may not be experiencing ecstasy at this stage. But actually, it is working. And if we weren't experiencing anything, we wouldn't be doing it, right? So there is reciprocation. The reciprocation is there. Otherwise, you wouldn't be doing it. Yeah, Krishna is inspiring you to do it, to exercise your free will in that way. Because actually, the living entity is completely under illusion. Everything is, nothing happens without Krishna's sanction. So Krishna is actually allowing you to exercise your free will like that. So, yeah.
Hare Krishna.
I know. Yeah.
But yeah, the world is around.
Yeah, I was thinking about the same thing actually. I was thinking, well, doesn't Gisborne see the first sun? But then I thought that how Dinabandhu Prabhu, when he was here, he was saying that New Zealand is like Patala Loka. New Zealand is literally like the Western Gate. It's so subterranean. So I was thinking, yeah, that we are actually in Patala Loka here. As yeah, Devamrita Maharaj explains that we have a very unique type of Maya here. It just lulls us into complacence, because yeah, everything is going so well, but actually not. Mm. Yeah. Thank you so much. Granth Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai.